this week's edition of Inside the Capitol. I'm Jason Adkins.
And I'm Maggee Hangy.
And we're here to update you on everything going on in we're a little over halfway through the session, and it's going really, really fast. There was a special election last week that we told you about, and in the House, in House District 40B, Roseville, Shoreview, and the Democrat, David Godfrey, defeated the Republican, Paul Wickstrom, so the House now returns to a 67-67 tie. 68 votes are needed to pass the bill, so Republicans and Democrats are going to have to work together both in the committee process and on the floor to pass important bills this year, and especially a budget. So there's going to be a lot of negotiations between now and then. A lot of the work between now and the end of session is going to be putting together a budget. We're coming up on first and second deadline on March 28th, and then deadline for budget bills and policy finance bills is April 11th, so right before the Easter Passover break. So a lot going on in the next couple of weeks here. I want to start out by saying bills that don't get a hearing before March 28th will not meet deadlines, policy bills. One of those is the gambling expansion bill. And we are opposed to online sports gambling and the expansion of sports gambling. There's a lot of news and articles and studies coming out about this right now, and we're just trying to raise awareness of that. Look in your inbox in the Catholic Advocacy Network for an action alert on opposing sports gambling. You'll learn about why that's an important issue, how it's going to be harmful to vulnerable people in our communities, and what you can do about it. So go to mncatholic.org and take action under the Catholic Advocacy Network emails, and connect with your legislators about that important issue. Learn more and share that alert with your friends and your parishioners. But some key pieces of legislation that we wanted to share with you this week. Some of you may recall that the legislation that's called Positive Alternatives was defunded or reformed in the 2023-2024 biennium, and that ended up harming the pregnancy resource centers that many of us know do some great frontline work in the community serving women in need. Those were important grants to help women make the choice for life. I always say that in 2023-2024, Minnesota went from a pro-choice state to a pro-abortion state. Those are really sad effects of the last biennium. There was a bill to restore some of that funding. Maggee, say a little bit about that and what happened on the House floor to that bill.
Yeah, Representative Zalesnikar was carrying a bill, like Jason said, to essentially restore the Positive Alternative Grant. It was a little different than the grant iteration had been in the past, but it would give money both to pregnancy resource centers and to maternity homes. So that went through the committee process in the House. We testified in support of that during when it was heard in the Health Committee. And it moved to the floor at the end of last week and had a full and robust hearing. It lasted a little over an hour, I believe, and there's, of course, with all these issues, a lot of feelings on all the sides, and a lot of the issues it hits close to home for a lot of the legislators, but our pro-life legislators did a great job talking about just the importance of pregnancy resource centers, the value they add to our communities. A lot of these pregnancy resource centers work with different agencies in the county and other groups to really offer real resources to women. So that debate was had. At the end of the debate, the bill didn't pass, but yeah, we'll see what happens in the future, and we know, regardless of what happens in the legislature, that the pregnancy resource centers, a lot of them are doing really great work in our state.
And they need your support. Without
right.
some of the state funding that was going to some of them, they'll need to fill that gap and to provide those needed resources for women in need. So support your local pregnancy resource center is the do part here, and what we need people to do in light of the fact that Positive Alternatives was not restored, that funding wasn't restored. But we are working on a different front to make sure that women in need and families in need have as few barriers as possible to having children, raising children, helping them flourish. And that is our work to pass the nation-leading child tax credit. Super proud of that legislation and that movement to help families in need and to absorb the costs of inflation, among other things. So many expenses going up, and we want to trust families to make decisions and lower the tax burden that they face. To form families and raise families and have the resources they need to do so. It's our position that families are doing the most important work to raise the next generation. How can we remove financial barriers that are in their way from doing that important job? So the nation-leading child tax credit passed. Families receive up to a $1,750 credit per child. That credit starts phasing out though at household incomes of $35,000. Now it does extend into the middle class, but we're trying to expand that this
Right.
session and increase the amount of eligible families by 20%. What's going on with that bill, Maggie?
Yeah, so we just had a bill introduced last week to do what Jason mentioned, to expand the child tax credit. It's already done such great work. What's in existence of the child tax credit has reached over 500,000 children. On average, the families are getting about $1,200 per child from the child tax credit, which is really meaningful money when it comes to looking at all the expenses that children are expensive, groceries are expensive. There's all sorts of things vying for our money and to be able to care for our families. So this is giving really meaningful relief, and we think we can do better. We want to, as Jason said, expand that by 20%. The bill has great bipartisan support in both bodies. We have people on all sorts of political spectrums who have signed on to the bill, and we continue to add authors every day, actually, people who are enthusiastic about increasing the child tax credit, doing what we can. There's not a lot of money in the till. We've talked about that in the past, but we think that this bill and this issue cuts across the political spectrum to give meaningful relief to families and help them out when all the prices are high.
So there's a surplus of about a little over $400 million for this biennium. There's a cloudy financial outlook going forward, but that hasn't prevented legislators from proposing lots of new spending and lots of tax relief. What we're excited about with this bill is that it brings together people on both sides of the aisle, and we believe it has a real possibility of actually passing and getting over the finish line this year. We're working on this. Our partners with the Joint Religious Legislative Coalition are working on this. It's a true interfaith effort that really focuses on the needs of families, family economic security, and kids. And we rely on your support as well. If you are a family who might benefit from an expanded child tax credit, let us know.
Right.
How do they do that, Maggie?
Yeah, you can send us an email. We'll put our email up on the screen. You can send us an email or respond. There's been a call to action in our newsletter on this, so you can respond to that. We're looking for families who may benefit or families who currently benefit from the child tax credit and have seen the benefits that what it's allowed your family to do. And we're talking about the state child tax credit. Of course, there's the federal child tax credit, but we're looking for families who could or who have benefited from the Minnesota child tax credit.
That's a refundable credit, meaning that even if you don't pay income taxes, you can still be eligible for the credit, and it functions then like a subsidy for low-income families. And those families are paying sales taxes, they're paying property or rental tax, they're paying payroll taxes of various kinds. So those families are paying taxes, and we're providing meaningful tax relief for those families to do the important things they need to do to raise the next generation. Thanks for that update, Maggie. Again, go to mncatholic.org to stay on top of what's going on at the Capitol this week and every week. Until next week, Maggie and Jason, we're wishing you the best, and we hope you'll join us again. Thanks so much.
Thank you.